This time on Word on the Street, early 2000s viral sensation comes to Iowa City.
And reviewing the best screenplay this Oscar season.
All the entertainment arts updates, both local and national.
And our opinions on them, so without further ado, sit back,
relax,
and here's the Word on the Street.
Welcome back to another episode of Word on the Street.
We are here every week to give you your local and national entertainment updates.
But Hannah, this is our last episode of the school year,
I know,
sadly.
and I'm gonna miss it so much, but let's hold the tears for now.
We have breaking news that will probably circulate at the time you see this, but the casting for the second prequel for the Hunger Games was recently announced.
Yeah, this book titled Hunger Games: Sunrise on the Reaping follows the origin story of Haymitch Abernathy. Now, Haymitch is a character from the first Hunger Games who mentored Katniss and Peeta. He is the second District 12 and the only living victor from it. And we see him as a washed up alcoholic who has a strong disdain for the games in the Capitol. And his character changes drastically throughout the franchise, so we'll just kind of see what they do with that.
Yeah, and the character of Haymitch will be played by breakout actor Joseph Zada. He's only 20 years old, which is crazy, and he's from Sydney, Australia. And casting for another character, Lenore Dove Baird, will be played by Whitney Peake. She was in the Gossip Girl spinoff from a while ago, and she's only 22, and she's from Uganda.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And a child star who needs no introduction, McKenna Grace will play Maisie Donner, one of the other District 12 tributes, and she has this iconic pin that she wears. It's the Mockingjay, and if you'll remember, it's a symbol for the rebellion later on in the franchise. And the last member announced is Jesse Plemons to play Plutarch Heavensbee. He becomes the head game maker in the 75th Hunger Games, which is an important one, and Plemons has been in several high-grossing projects like Breaking Bad, Killers of the Flower Moon, Fargo, and much more. But this film will focus on the 50th Hunger Games and the second quarter quill, which is Haymitch's game, where each district sends 4 tributes instead of 2. And I'm excited to see the origin story of Haymitch, just where he got to be in the movies that we first saw came out.
Yeah, I don't know too much personally about Hunger Games, but I know it's a really big deal whenever they do come out.
Grace, I heard that you got to sit in on a meeting with an iconic TV actor.
That's right. Last week, Rainn Wilson, who plays the iconic character Dwight Schrute in The Office, zoomed into a screenwriting class, and I actually got the opportunity to sit in and listen to him speak and give students advice. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Yeah, this was an amazing experience and definitely one of the highlights so far of being a student here at Iowa. I'm a huge fan of The Office, so this was a super cool thing that I got to do, and it just really hit. It was personal for me, and just a really cool thing that I feel like is just another great connection that Iowa has that not a whole lot of other schools can offer. His wife went here, so that's kind of his connection to Iowa City, and he was just so funny and so personable, and it just really got to me that I was like in a Zoom meeting with Dwight Schrute. Like, it was just weird and cool at the exact same time. And he was great. And he even wanted the professor, whose name was Michael, that he's friends with. And I just thought it was so ironic that his name was Michael. And it was just a funny little coincidence. But he wanted Michael to pan the computer at one point so he could see each and every student in the audience. And I think that really spoke to his character a lot. And more importantly, he just talked about his journey and his love for acting. And the biggest takeaway that I learned from hearing him was just trust the process. He talked so much about how he made, his big break when he was young, or he thought he made his big break because he was on Broadway, and that's what he strived to do, and he thought that he had made it, and he ended up just being miserable in that experience. But he said that he is so glad he had that experience, because without it, he would have had no idea, and that eventually led him to try out for the role of a TV series, which eventually led him to be Dwight. He is a pretty religious guy. He wrote a book circling around the idea of religion. And one thing that he said that just really stuck with me, and I have been using this ever since, is he said, rejection is God's protection. And that just really hit home for me. We've all been there. We all experience that on a daily basis. And I think that that was just something that, you know, whether or not you're a religious person, just hearing someone like that say that, who is so successful, just, you know, really struck with people or the kids in these audiences who are trying to make make it in this industry that is so competitive. He recently started doing some podcast work, and one of the kids asked him, what is a question when you do interviews all the time that you're never asked that you wish someone asked you? And his response was, I wish someone would ask me why I wanted to be a storyteller. Not necessarily an actor, but a storyteller. He emphasized so much that no matter what route you go, whether you're in journalism or comm or screenwriting, which a lot of these kids wanted to be, being a storyteller is first and foremost the most important piece of the puzzle. If you don't have a love for stories, you can't do this job. No matter what you want to do, comedy, drama, whatever the case might be. And his advice was just go through life and take those pieces of it and that journey and be inspired by it and take what you can learn along the way. He ended on a note saying that as filmmakers and script makers, you always want to be desired. We always have that feeling like we want to be wanted, and it's hard to find that moment where you can say, okay, I've made it, I don't need to keep going. But you need to find that balance and set your own goals. It's not going to look the same for everyone else. And that really resonated with me. And, you know, what do I want to accomplish? What do I want to accomplish because of everyone else or because of what everyone else is doing? So you kind of are the only one that can be satisfied with yourself. And he just really encapsulated that really, really well. And I would highly recommend, if anyone gets the chance to go speak with him or sit in an audience with him or a room with him or just talk with him about life and what he thinks on things. He is so fantastic, so nice, and just real. Yeah, I didn't feel like I was talking to someone that was superficial or listening to someone that was just, you know, hasn't been through some of the things that we've all been through. And this was just a 10 out of 10 experience.
Grace, I'm so jealous you got to meet him. The Office is one of my favorite comedies and just a comfort show, so that's so cool. And even cooler seeing that he's like a real person, you know. We see these actors and we hear these stories about, oh, they're in their own world, and like he's just like us. So that was really cool. And I like what you had to say about rejection is, what was it? Rejection is God's.
Rejection is God's protection.
I love that, because personally in my life, I've been dealing with a lot of internship rejections, and it's just kind of shown how real this industry is to try and break into. And, you know, I thought about pursuing acting, and I thought that I would be safer in this and not have to deal with as much rejection. But honestly, I think I've been told by several reporters that acting might be easier than trying to do TV journalism. So yeah, I'm gonna, even though I didn't see it, I'm definitely gonna take that with me, because I need to refocus my mind on everything happens for a reason, and rejection is God's protection.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
And switching gears a little bit, I know we had a high-profile rapper make an appearance last night in Iowa City, and we'll send it over to Liz Schultz, who has more details.
That's right. Last night, the internet sensation from the early 2000s, Soulja Boy, made his way to the Wildwood Saloon in Iowa City. And yes, it was just as exciting as you'd expect. I was super surprised hearing someone of his status performing at such a small venue in the flyover state. But his fans here in Iowa City and Cedar Rapids really showed for him. Soulja Boy, whose real name is DeAndre Way, came to fame in 2007 when his single Crank That Soulja Boy went viral online. And it wasn't just a song, it was actually more of like a full dance. If you were anywhere near a dance or a party back then, you heard it. I remember definitely hearing that at the middle school dances when I was of that age. Last night, that same song had the crowd jumping like it was 2007 all over again. He was the first artist to actually, quote, go viral and become an overnight sensation. He capitalized on the rise of internet and social media platforms like MySpace, and there he posted his videos and songs and uploaded them to dozens of websites. This marketing strategy led him to YouTube, where his Crank That video was competing with stars like Britney Spears and Beyonce. Now, I wasn't able to attend, but I have been keeping up with all the photos and the videos that I've been seeing around social media. And I'm going to send it over to the Daily Iowan visuals editor, Emma Colabro, who's in the newsroom and attended the event last night.
Thanks, guys. That's right. I was at the event last night, and it was quite the experience. I arrived to photograph around 7:15 with the event planned to start around 8. Plenty of college-age kids filtered their way through Wildwood's doors, dressed in Soulja Boy's infamous white tee and blue jeans combo, topped off with a sideways hat and glasses. The crowd was buzzing as openers began, but I noticed a slight die-down as performances went on, until opener Entre Luce's dancers entered the stage with a more dynamic and upbeat energy. As they wrapped up, the DJ took over again for what felt like forever. As time went on, anticipating Soulja Boy's appearance, I noticed many people taking impatient glances at their watches and phones. What held a lot of people off were the throwback songs that caused a few older women to throw it back, resulting in a cheer from the crowd that made me think Soulja Boy was entering the stage. This went across both levels of Wildwood. Finally, after about an hour of waiting, Soulja Boy entered the stage and was immediately cast in the light of almost every audience member's phone flash. Within minutes, he pulled out a joint and made a show of lighting it in front of everybody. It was super cool to see such a large star perform in such a small city, despite plenty of attendance feeling like it was for the bit. The room was buzzing as he would grab fans' phones and take selfies or say hi to their friends on FaceTime. As the night went on, however, the performance felt bland to me. The uniqueness of a celebrity taking a picture on my phone would feel dampened by the fact that it felt like most of his performance was eaten up by this selfie time. Soulja Boy closed with Crank That, which caused the crowd to go wild, joining him in and doing the Crank That dance. By the end of the night, the letterbox with the date and name of the show was all jumbled, which I felt was an accurate representation of the evening's chaos. Despite the ups and downs, I had a pretty good time at his performance and would definitely recommend trying to attend one of them on the rest of the Swag tour. I'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks for that, Emma. Thinking about Soulja Boy really took me back to middle school, which was around when his hits came out. And he is set to continue his tour, the rest of his tour, on Wednesday in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And we have some breaking news for you. Pope Francis has died at the age of 88. He passed away peacefully on the morning of April 21st, which was Easter Monday, inside his residence at the Vatican, following some complications from a heart stroke and heart failure. His death marks the close of this historic leadership for over a decade, and one that left a large impact on the church, world politics, and pop culture. Pope Francis, who was the first Latin American to become pope, was known for shaking things up. He supported the same-sex civil unions, pushed for action on climate change, and worked to simplify the Vatican's complex system. And through it all, he led with compassion and humility. The funeral date is set for Saturday, April 26th in St. Peter's Square, where Pope Francis once addressed millions of people himself. The service is to be led by Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re, an advisor of the Pope. It is expected to draw in an international audience in person and online. Francis will be laid to rest at the Basilica of St. Maria Maggiore, which is not beneath St. Peter's, like most of the other leaders before him were laid to rest. And in his final testament, which was released by the Vatican, Pope Francis asked to simply be remembered as a servant of peace. And that truly is how many people remember him, not just as the Pope, but as the people's Pope. He was someone who rode the bus with cardinals, posed for many photos, and was just not afraid to be different from his traditions. His passing now paves the way for a new chapter of the church. Gathering cardinals is expected to begin in early May, and many are predicting that the next pope could come from Africa or Asia, which signals a shift towards a more globally diverse church. But for now, the world is pausing and remembering a man whose legacy will rise above religious lines. Pope Francis leaves behind a church both challenged and transformed, and a legacy of humility that a world sorely needs back. I'm going to send it back over to Hannah and Grace to dive into a movie that explains the process of choosing a new pope.
Thanks, Liz, for that rundown. And Hannah and I recently watched the movie Conclave, which just released this past October and was a frontrunner during awards season this past year. Conclave tells the story of what exactly happens after a pope dies and a new one has to be selected. And with current events, we decided it was the perfect time to watch this movie and review it.
Yeah, and the thriller drama follows Cardinal Lawrence and how he leads one of the most sacred events in the Catholic Church. However, he soon uncovers a web of secrets and lies that could alter the decision of who will be voted on as the next pope, and all the politics that go into play during the Cardinal College voting. But a little background about this movie: it won both an Academy Award and a Golden Globe for Best Screenplay, and the cast won a Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Performance and a Critics' Choice Award for Best Acting Ensemble. Now, these are only a few of the many awards this movie took home, and on top of all these trophies, this movie has a stacked cast.
Ralph Fiennes, Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow all starred and did a fantastic job. It was filmed all over Italy, from Rome to Vatican City. And I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit more about the cinematography and the music composition for a second. I mean, these shots were just so detailed and amazing and made you uncomfortable. So I think that's where like the thriller kind of sense came in. You were so much suspense, and you were sitting on the edge of your seat just waiting for the ball to drop and waiting for that jump scare to come in, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's just really interesting because right now people across the globe, obviously with what has been happening in Rome and just for people of the Catholic faith, this is a huge, huge deal and a huge time. And they're streaming this movie in order to better understand how the new Pope will be selected after the passing of Pope Francis. And according to my research, there was a little bit of disagreement on whether or not the movie was super accurate, but overall they did a pretty good spot-on job of grasping how this process is done. And the plot is obviously fictional. But the crew of the movie actually had an on-site consultant next to them to make sure that everything they did was accurate. And I think that that's really important because obviously people do not take this lightly. So you want to make sure. And Ralph Fiennes actually spoke personally about the importance to him, how important it is to him to get all the rituals correct and make sure that nothing is being left out.
Yeah, no, it's just, I think it was done very well, and I didn't see any offense or any issues with how they portrayed it. I thought it was pretty beautiful and pretty amazing. And critics are noticing that one of the main characters, though, Cardinal Benitez, who is one of the front runners for Pope, ran in the position in Proctor, which basically means in secret. But in reality, any cardinal who is appointed in Proctor cannot run in the conclave unless his name was announced by the Pope before he passed, which did not happen in this movie.
Yeah, I did think that was a little bit interesting. I mean, realistically, that would never probably happen in a real conclave, but it was pretty important to the movie, and even like minor details like how they would destroy the Pope's ring after he dies, which I didn't even know was really like they did that, which I learned from this movie. I looked that up. That was done accurately, and the set was really good considering.
So impressive.
Obviously, you can't film in the Vatican, which it makes sense.
But you'll get to see it.
Yes, I will be going there this summer to intern for Vatican News, so I'm super excited to get an inside look. But yeah, just for a little quick rundown on our opinions for the movie, I can start. As far as the plot goes, it was good. I did feel a little left a little confused by the ending and how I would have liked to have known a little bit more about it. I don't want to spoil anything for those who haven't seen it, but you'll just kind of have to watch it for yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree to a little bit, but also disagree with you. I honestly loved how abstract the plot was. I pretty much understood everything, but I also loved how kind of mysterious it was at the same time. There were points that were definitely confusing. So when you watch this, you really have to pay attention. They speak in multiple languages. Like there's very distinct language and wording that's just confusing. But I think the history behind it helped me out a little bit because I did have kind of a more understanding of how the choosing of the Pope goes. But I think the story wrapped up a little fast. I mean, I felt complete. I felt complete with how they chose the Pope, but I mean, it just felt like it wrapped fast. But also, I didn't want it to go on much longer. So I liked the ending. I loved the plot, but I did think that the plot did a pretty good job of telling the story.
Yeah, and I think this is also just very confusing. It's not as simple as people think. It's very, very complex. It's hard to understand. It's not just a matter of voting. It's political, and as you would probably imagine. But as we learned from this movie, I probably would have liked to know a little bit more about the character that was chosen as the new Pope. But the acting was really, really good. It, like we said before, it's a stacked cast, and I felt like they couldn't have picked a better one. It was really interesting seeing Stanley Tucci in a role like this, but he killed it.
Oh, 100%. The acting was just outstanding. It was so cool to see an actor like Stanley Tucci, who we're seeing from The Hunger Games, playing extravagant and queer characters.
Very flamboyant.
Yes, but now we're seeing him play a very toned down and modest cardinal. So that was really cool to see the dynamic and the range there. He did amazing. But the acting was just so distinct. I mean, with all the characters, you could see the inner conflict just in their eyes, not even just in their, you could see it in their body, but you can tell a good actor just how the emotion is in their eyes. And you could see the choices they were making and how they brought that character to life. And I have no criticisms for any of the acting choices. It was just phenomenal.
Yeah, and the overall message, especially now, is so important. And I think that if I would recommend, you know, before all this happened, yeah, this movie, like, it's great and it's good, it's important, but now it is really important. I really would recommend everyone watch this just so they can understand what, especially the people in Rome, are going through. It's huge for them, and I think this movie just almost hit that perfectly, and we need to understand how it works and what's happening, and it's also just a nice reminder that the Catholic Church is now more than ever changing and will continue to change. Every time there's a new leader in anything, things are going to change whether we wanted to or not.
Yeah, I'm a little bit weary about what the message was they were trying to get across. I don't know if they were trying to tell us about the process or about some maybe like social and political issues going on within the church and around the world, but I kind of got across that no matter how high and holy you are, you have skeletons in your closet, which I don't know if that was what they were trying to get across, but that's what I kind of took away from it. So I was a little bit weary on like what exactly they were trying to pin down. It seemed like there were a few topics, and I don't know what the main one was, but maybe that was just me.
Yeah, for sure. It was very interesting to learn, and you're absolutely right. No one's perfect, and till apparently you're Pope, but before that, you got so issues. We really learned that in this movie, and overall, I'd give this movie an 8 out of 10, and I'd recommend that everyone go see it now to fully understand what's going on, but especially what the people in Rome are currently living through.
Definitely. Overall, I'm gonna go a little higher and say a 9 out of 10 because it was just amazing. But let's get your breakdown ratings first.
I would say I'd give the plot a 6 out of 10 just because I was left a little bit confused. I loved the acting. I'd give it a 10 out of 10. I thought everyone was perfect with the roles they were given. I liked the messaging. I got the message across that leadership is ever changing and nothing's ever going to be permanent, and there's always going to be someone new to success you, and you kind of just got to roll with it and can't really stop that. And so I would give that a 9 out of 10. And overall, like I said, 8 out of 10. Solid movie.
For me, I'm gonna go the plot a 9 out of 10 just because I thought the writing was phenomenal, as we can see by the awards. They told the story in the perfect story arc, the perfect formula. I just thought it was done really well, but there was also mystery, and that if you weren't paying attention, you would miss a lot of it. So yes, could be confusing, but I thought if you paid attention and understood it, you were gonna love it. Acting, 10 out of 10, just phenomenal, and I couldn't expect anything less from this cast. They were seasoned actors with a lot of experience and are known to embody the roles amazingly. Messaging, I'm gonna go with 6 just because I don't know what the main thing they were trying to get across was. There were several things, but I couldn't pin down the main one. And overall, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. This was a amazing piece of film, and I'm definitely going to watch it again at some point.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But switching gears a little bit, we're now going to send it to Julia Rose to tell us about the theater department's last main stage play of the year.
Tell us what you have to say, Julia.
Yeah, guys, I went to see An Enemy of the People, a play directed by Johanna Cosimo, and I went on Thursday, April 24th at 8 p.m. And honestly, I think that was one of the best nights to go. I was entertained from the very start when at the beginning of the show they had a screen projecting live footage of the actors right outside of the theater building making their way inside in character. I've been to a lot of productions in my days and I have never seen something like this done before, so it was really cool. The premise of the show, while funny and entertaining, was actually pretty heavy. Some of the themes were very in your face and obvious, while others you had to dig a little bit deeper to understand. It dealt with a lot of ideas like money and power dynamics, as well as the media's role in society. The characters clearly disagreed on surface level problems in the plot, but there was a deeper and even systematic issue and discussion at play where they debated the American dream and whether working hard gets someone to the top or if instead money and connections get people in places of power who may not deserve it and can even cause monumental harm if they don't know what they're doing, like what happened in the show. And I particularly wanted to shout out one scene between two actors who played siblings in a fight, which was so brilliant. They were so in tune with one another, and the passion and emotion was so heightened, and it felt so real, like a real sibling relationship to me. And Honestly, in the best way possible, it gave me emotional whiplash because it was so funny, and then 30 seconds later in the scene, it'd be heartbreaking, and then it was back to funny, and I was just so enthralled. And I've also, with that, never seen an audience so engaged. I think there may have been some friends in the audience that night. That's why I said it was a good night to go. There was so much laughter, there was gasping, there was applause in between scenes, and even the silences were even more heavy because of the loudness of the audience. And so I was thoroughly entertained, but part of me wonders if that entertainment was because the audience was so entertaining as well as the actors. But overall, I'm so glad that I went, and I applaud the theater department for their commitment and their execution of the show. Now back to Hannah and Grace.
And Hampshire Auditorium announced their Broadway series for next year.
Featuring shows like Kinky Boots, Clue on Stage, The Music Man, Beetlejuice, and Rent in Concert, which is interesting. We'll see how that goes, but I'm pretty sure we'll actually be here for all of them in school.
Yeah, I think they're all between January and May, which is
a little
really
late
nice.
for the school year, but yeah, I'm excited.
I am so excited. I am most excited for The Music Man.
Mine's Kinky Boots.
The last time I saw Music Man was on Broadway starring Hugh Jackman and Sutton
wow.
Foster, so...
Wait, you got to see it? No, you did not get to see Sutton Foster.
I did, and it was
No,
wonderful.
I'm so jealous. I got to see all the clips on TikTok. You know...
I even got to see Hugh Jackman after the play in the streets of New York, and it was just
okay, you know
the
what?
world's
You know
greatest
what?
experience.
So it must be nice to be you. I'm so jealous. When I did Princess Fiona in high school, I based my whole character of Fiona off Sutton's
That's
Sutton's
right.
version
She
of.
was Fiona.
Yes, she was.
She was wonderful, and now there's rumors that the two of them are dating, so you never know what can happen on Broadway.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna have to catch up on that.
Yes, but anyways, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Word on the Street and for supporting us in our first year with the show.
We are here every week to give you your entertainment updates starting back up in August.
For Liz Schultz, Emma Calbro, I'm Grace Lathrop.
And for Julia Rose, I'm Hannah Lipsky. And we'll see you next semester on Word on the Street.